Hi, in this video we will add Windows 2019 server to the domain. So we have two servers, Node 1 and Node 2. Those servers will basically act as the nodes for active passive cluster. We will see how to configure the active passive cluster in next video. So right now let's add those two servers to the domain. First let's change the host name of both the servers. I'll change the name of second server as well. Okay, we will need to restart the server to make the change, but before the restart let's set the IP address. Okay, so here we have the domain controller wherein we have configured example.local as the domain, and the domain controller has IP address as 192.168.80.10. So that's the IP address. So for node 1 we will set the IP address as maybe 192.168.80.15. 255.255.255.0. That's the subnet mask. Gateway 168.80.2. And as far as DNS is concerned, we will set it as the IP address of the domain controller, because the domain controller is also the DNS server. .80.10. So let's see node 2. Here also we will need to restart the server, but before restarting the server we will set the IP address for node 2 as well. For this we will set it as 192.168.80.20. 192.168.80.2, that's the gateway, and 192.168.80.10, that's the DNS for example.local. Let's restart both of them. So both the nodes are restarted. Now we will check whether the DNS is working or not, whether our domain, the example.local, is properly getting resolved before adding it to the domain. Okay, so if we ping example.local, it is resolving to the IP 192.168.80.10, which is our domain controller's IP, which is perfectly alright. Let's see node 2 as well. Okay, so both nodes are able to resolve the domain example.local. So now before adding both the nodes to domain, we will first disable the first we will disable the firewall to avoid any kind of issue with communication with the domain controller. So turn off. Okay, the firewall is turned off both the nodes. Now we will add both the nodes to our domain one by one. So currently they are in work group, so we'll put the domain name. Example.local. It will ask the password, the credentials. We need to give the credentials of a ID which has the right to add it to the domain. So preferably the domain admin or enterprise admin, or else in real scenarios there are few. I mean to say, one can assign permissions or assign the authority to add add a server to the domain. It is called as delegation. So if any user has the delegated rights to add any particular server to the domain, that person can add it to the domain. So here, because it is our test setup, we will be using the administrator credentials. So we are using domain admin's credentials here. Same way we will do with node 2. Oops, sorry. Okay, so node 1 is added to the domain. Welcome to example.local domain. Let's restart it once. Node 2 is also there. Restart. Now if I go to domain controller and open dsa.msc, I can see both the nodes here. So both computers are added to the domain. Okay, now here, once we have added the server to the domain, we can log in with local administrator or else as a domain administrator. That is, we have two options. Either we can log in with local users, or we can log in with domain users, provided we have the right to log into the server. So this particular ID is the local ID. So let's log in with domain administrator's ID. So here is the default domain, that is example.com. So we are logged into node 1 with domain admin. Let's do the same thing on node 2. Okay, so this is how it works. This is how we add any particular server to the domain. Thanks for watching.